What's up, guys? Straight from the chest. My name is Justin Groth. Welcome. I appreciate you guys for tuning in with me and just giving me your listening ear. For those of you that are new, welcome. And for those of you that have been with me from the day one, the jump, man, I'm so grateful for you. Guys, for those of you that are new, we like to do a segment that we like to call We're Not Friends. So guys, just as the title entails, we are not friends if you're one of those guys that likes to brag about what time you wake up in the morning. You know those guys that they always have to showcase what time they wake up? It could be 3:30, 4, and they always feel like they need to tell. They're like vegans. They're always needing to feel like they have to tell you what time they wake up, as if that gives them automatically a bigger bravado, more respect, more praise. Good for you, dude. You wake up at 4 in the morning. What do you do as a result? What are you doing with your 4 in the morning wake up? You can wake up at 3:30, 2:30. You can never go to bed. Doesn't matter. What are you waking up for? Because if you're not waking up for a reason and you're just waking up because Gary Vee told you to wake up, or he wakes up at 4 in the morning, or because Eric Thomas told you he wakes up at 4 in the morning, or what is the reason behind why you wake up? And whatever that reason is, keep it to yourself. No one, I'll be honest with you, no one cares what time you wake up. No one cares if you never go to bed. Nobody cares. And the reason why people don't care is because it's not applying to their life. Now, if you're saying I wake up in the morning at 4, to me, the reason why you say that is because you're looking for praise. You're looking for respect. Either because you want to think that's more manly because you wake up at 4 in the morning. The manly thing is to be silent in the things that you do that keep you responsible and reliable. And if that's waking up at 4 in the morning because you got to get your workout in beforehand, before you go to work, or because you got to work on that project that you're doing for your side gig or whatever, before you go into work, then I applaud you. But if you're just saying you wake up, if you're just implementing waking up at 4 in the morning just for sakes of waking up at 4 in the morning, you're a dumbass. Get more sleep. Wake up at 6 instead. Your body will thank you. But here's the thing with people that say that. They're often only saying that because the person they look up to, or the motivational speaker they look up to, is saying it. Well, they're saying it because they're doing it for a reason. But I also don't oblige with them because they're saying it and because they're in a higher position than maybe I or you are. Just because they're at a higher rank doesn't mean that I still don't think down upon that. Meaning, if they're saying it just because they're an established human being in pop culture reputation for whatever reason, doesn't mean that it makes it okay that they still should be bragging about that. You know what I mean? They still shouldn't be bragging about what time they wake up. You wake up at a certain time earlier than maybe everybody else because you got to. I know many people, myself included, wake up early. I used to wake up I'm going to be braggadocious here. I used to wake up at 3:30 in the morning when I was first starting my business for training people because I needed to get certain people in at 4, 4:30, 5, whatever it was, because I needed to establish reputation. I didn't go out and brag about, I wake up at 3:30, bro. What time you wake up? It doesn't matter. What matters is I'm responsible. What matters is I have a plan of attack. And that's the reason why I'm waking up. One of my good friends, Ramon, wakes up at 4 in the morning, or even probably 3:30, because he has to. Because he's a responsible father. And he knows that if he gets his workout in the morning, he can save that time that he would have to work out after work for his kids. And he knows that he doesn't want to give that time away for his workout. He wants to spend time with his kids. So guess what he does? He wakes up at 3:30, 4 in the morning to be able to get to the gym by 4:30 or whatever it is, so he can get his workout in and get it done with. So that way when he goes home after work, he's got time with his kids. Why? Because he's a responsible human being. That's it. End of story. But he doesn't go talk about it, brag about it. I get it before. It's just something that he does. He's just adopted it into who he is. And that's what I gather that you all do. If you have to wake up at 4 in the morning or 3:30 or 2:30, whatever it is, just be about it. Don't talk about it. No one gives a shit. Period. Got it? Good. On another note, guys, let me think of some of my nitro cold brew. Oh, this shit's so good. I'll tell you one thing. I can't podcast without caffeine. I mean, I'm sure I could, maybe, but it wouldn't be the same delivery. Like, caffeine has saved my butt so many times. I can't even explain to you. Like, caffeine, whether it be from coffee or a Bang energy drink, something like, it's just, I need it. Like, maybe I don't need it, but it's such a good weapon to go into a podcast with, or go into any gig with. Like, if you have caffeine, it's like a weapon, man. You're now firing on all cylinders, and you just feel good. And so, anyways, the caffeine is definitely a helper in this regard. But guys, on to the main message. The reason why you tune in. Maybe this is not the reason why. Maybe you tune in for the We're Not Friends segment, but albeit the main segment of what I'm trying to, or what we're going to talk about today, has a little bit to do with fitness. I'm going to correlate it back to fitness because that's what I love. And this is definitely applicatory in multiple people's lives, not just from a fitness standpoint. But if you are in fitness, you know exactly where I'm going with this. And so it's going to be a walk through in the park with this, but you're going to also be able to understand where it applies to your life and not fitness. The thing is, with fitness and competing, if you want to be the most competitive in your field, you're going to be conditioned. Now, condition means you're lean, but lean to the average folk is not lean when you're on stage. They're two different types of leanness. Some folk think that being lean is, beach body, where you got some visible abs and, some cuts in your arms, and that's about it. It's a completely different monster when it comes to being on stage and getting evaluated on your physique. You have to be what we call peeled or shredded. It's gotta be there. If not, doesn't matter how big you are, doesn't matter how big your quads and biceps and back is, you'll get last. You'll get further down the line if you're not conditioned. And so the goal with being conditioned, it has everything to do with your dieting, has everything to do with your nutrition, has everything to do with your discipline, and has everything to do with your strategy. If you're not disciplined, if you're not strategic, then you will lose, period. Even with good genetics, doesn't matter. Even with drugs, you have to be able to be disciplined. Even on drugs, even with God-given genetics, you still got to be disciplined to look a certain way. Now, are you willing, if you're in bodybuilding, are you willing to become that disciplined, to become lean, go from lean to being peeled? Because it's a completely different avenue, completely different monster. Most people are not equipped for that, and that's why they never become good bodybuilders. But then again, there are those that do, but they're on a different level. They have to be. There's no room for error. There has to be an obedience applied to the discipline. If they want to go from 9%, 10% body fat, which to you that might be, oh my gosh, that's so lean. It's not. It's not when you're competing. You want to get down into 6s and the 5s and the 4s. And sometimes the 4s are even just are astronomically low to where you can't get there without drugs. Most people can't even get there without drugs. But getting that low requires you to be disciplined. And I see a lot on Instagram about a lot of guys or women that sell fitness programs and nutritional protocols that try to highlight, you can basically have your cake and eat it too, with a pun intended. You can have your cake if you cook it this way and eat it too. Let me tell you, if you want to be shredded, you can't. End of story. You just can't. I don't care how vegan it is. I don't care how organic and non-GMO it is. You can't. I don't care if it fits your macros, bro. It doesn't matter. You can't. And there's multiple reasonings behind that. But the most common reason is When you do things like that, you set little triggers off in your brain that cause you to want to go off kilter a little bit. And you're not providing everything that you need in terms of recovery and the trajectory catapult to the level of leanness that you're looking for. You see, there's an itinerary when it comes to, and a blueprint involved with becoming your best. And there are certain things that should not be deviated from. And when it comes to your fitness protocol, when it comes to getting lean, but not just lean, shredded, there are certain things that you do not deviate from because it's just not the way we do things. It's just not. Even amidst drugs, even amidst great genetics, you have to eat a certain way. You have to drink a certain amount of water. You have to train a certain way. And if you think that you can do this separately or do it on your own path and do this with your own ideologies in place, like, nah, I can do it like this. Be my guest to try, but you'll come short. You'll always come short. There's a certain routine you follow. And I always like to say, in competing or getting ready or getting super, super dialed, shredded, peeled, bland is better. Bland is better. What I mean by bland is bland foods. Bland foods, yes, we want salt. We want a little bit of salt here and there. Salt's good for the thyroid. It's good for your contractions. It's good. We need that micronutrient. However, the blander, the better. Just go by that rule. Now, most people cannot hack that. And therefore, they either get diluted, they kind of whittle out of the competition prep, or they just never even begin because it's just not who they are. They cannot adopt that framework. But that person will never see their best. They'll never see what they can really, really do if they just put their nose to the grindstone for 4 or 5 months and do that. Be bland is better. Focus on their cardio, focus on their weight training, and never miss a day. Most people can't subject themselves to that. They can't cut the body fat. They just can't. They can cut a little bit of body fat, but they can't trim everything. To be your best in life, to be your best in the gym, to be your best, to be the biggest and the most strongest warrior that resides inside of you, you have to be able to cut the fat. The fat could be people that are draining you down in life. The fat could be your own personal idols that are draining you down in life. Your fat could be social media and following the wrong influencers. Your fat could be the food, the shit food you have in your house that you're not willing to take out because you got a cheat day and you just kind of you kind of rationalize it to where it's just a cheat day, it's a cheat meal, and the cheat meal ends up turning into a cheat day, and then you have to pay for that the next day and the next day and the next day, and you're preventing your best from coming forward because you're taking 2 steps forward but 5 steps backwards. You can't cut the fat in your life. You're never going to see your best. Now, some of you started resolutions. Some of you, for 2020, because it was a new decade and all that, and it was January 1st, it's so important that you stick to your resolutions. I'm here to tell you, your resolutions don't mean shit. And if you stopped in your resolutions or you became a little bit dismissed with them, understandable. But you still got tomorrow. Because tomorrow is the same transition from December 31st, 2019 to January 1st, 2020. It's just another day. But you have the ability to continuously start over, not throw it all to the wind because it didn't go your way and because you messed up here and there and everywhere and you're like, who cares now? Every day is a new start. Every day is a new chance to turn the ignition and to continually fire on all cylinders. And every day is another day that you can cut more fat. But if you're not adhering to that principle, and you're not adhering to the elements that make that principle a reality, i.e. discipline, obedience, structure, Even though all those things are so boring. They're so boring and they're so uninviting and unexciting. Let me tell you, those are the things, those are the elements that make the CEOs the ones you look up to, CEOs. And not CEOs for money purposes, CEOs because that's the vision they saw as a little child and they capitalized on it. But they needed those elements to capitalize on them. It didn't come because they were just wishing or because they were able to make some of their cake and eat it too. It came by way of extracting and cutting the fat from their lives. If you're not able to do that in certain parameters of your life, you're always going to fall short. And I'm not saying that you're not going to slip. I'm not saying that it's going to be easy all the way through. I'm not saying that you need to be disciplined your whole entire life, because nobody can do that. We're all human. Nobody can go and never take a rest. We need to be able to rest. We need to be able to do, and we need to be able to reflect. And you may be in a season where you need to reflect right now. You don't need to do anything but reflect. You may be in a season where you need to be doing. You may be in a season where you need to rest. The discerning between rest, reflecting, and doing, or more so just resting and doing, is very, very thin line with a lot of folks. We can't really we don't know where if it's just us being a pussy or if it's just our brains telling us, look, man, pull the rein a little bit because you're getting too out of hand here. And for that, we need to reflect. In those moments, we need to reflect. We need to come back to structure. We need to come back to the Father. We need to come back to praying. We should never be losing in prayer, but we should be even praying harder in times like that because we don't know the best avenue to take, and we need help, we need guidance, we need structure. But see, the structure and the discipline and the obedience, those are all elements of refining the best you. It's not going to come by way of you just adopting having my cake and eating it too because it's lesser in calories, non-GMO, organic. It's also filled with a lot of substrates and a lot of crap that you don't need that might even trigger certain neurotransmitters in your brain to want to eat more sugar, more of the wrong thing. And that's never going to be optimal for you if you're trying to deliver your best. You're just creating more temptation, albeit more struggle. That's why I'm saying eat bland. Be bland, be simple in your life. It's very simple. Your path is very simple, but you make it too complex. It's very, very simple. You need to adopt structure. This is something that I would implore you to do. Adopt some structure, adopt some discipline and obedience around that structure, and keep in alignment with what God is saying to you. Because he's always talking to you. He's always talking to me. He's talking, but sometimes you're just not listening, or sometimes you're suppressing the voice because it's so small and it's so faint. But those are the most powerful words that you can ever hear, is the whisper that he calls on you. But you're not listening. You're not listening because you're listening to Janet instead. You're listening to Tom and John instead, when they don't have your best interests at heart. You're listening to that idol that's saying, oh, I do this and you buy my program and you can have your cake and eat it too. Don't listen to that. It's foolishness. It's nonsense. It doesn't work like that. What works is you staying disciplined. What works is you staying obedient to the disciplines. What works is you adopting structure. That works. Nothing else. You know why? You know why that shit works? It works because it's so bland and plain and simple. But sometimes the most simple and bland formalities are something so hard for people to adopt because people love complexity. People love to make things harder and more complex than they really are. They love that. They think that means more. They think the harder something is, the more complex the structure is, the more result I'm going to get. It's simple. You listen and you do. You develop discipline and structure and obedience, and you do those things consistently. And you don't listen to other people that are not that still small voice inside of you. You don't listen to what they're saying on you or what you should do or who you should be, because you already got the blueprint. You already got the itinerary. It's up to you to live that out. It's up to you to identify with everything that God's given you. It's up to you to identify with who you are and who He created you to be. And it's up to you to be fearless and go full force into whatever that is. Regardless if it's popular, regardless if it's going to give you clout, regardless if it's going to give you a bravado. It's your job and duty to go all in to that identity. If you don't, you'll always fall short. If you don't develop obedience and discipline to the identity, you're always going to fall short because you're never going to be able to extract the full you. Don't you understand? It's simple, dude. It's so simple, but you're making it complex. Just like your diet. You're trying to count your macros and put everything around 90% good, and then the 10% I can just kind of, that doesn't count because I'm being 90% good. So the last 10% I can just kind of wing it on. I can have a Pop-Tart if I want. I can have a honey bun. Yeah, you can, but you won't be your best. Bet. You won't be your best. Cutting corners, because that's what you're doing, will never amount to you being your best. And even if you showed up, let's just say you showed up in the best conditioning and won that show, if you had cut the honey buns, you could have been better. You could have been better. Do you want to do just what it takes to win? Or do you want to do everything it takes to be your best? Because those two things are different. That's different. I work my ass off in the gym. Why? Not because I'm going to grow anymore. Guys, I'm peaked out. I've gained as much muscle mass as I'm ever going to gain in my entire adult life. I'm about 30 to 35 pounds over what I can gain naturally, or over what I can gain, or over what I was when I just started at a healthy weight. That's the limit, guys. That's the limit. But doesn't mean that I'm pulling the reins back and I'm just doing what I need to do to just get by. I'm working harder, and that seems counterproductive. I'm building my strength mentally, because I know this life, it's not about fitness. Where I'm going, it's not about fitness. But the fitness is helping me to deliver a practice that's going to help me to take me to a new trajectory mentally in life. That I need to be stronger mentally. I need to be able to be more of a warrior mentally. So I know that all this fundamental training, it's just practice. But if I'm not giving it 110%, then I know that I'm not going to be developing the best warrior that I need to be given that time that it comes. That God says, look, I'm using you now. You need to be here now. I want to be my best. I want to have my armor on. I want to have everything, figuratively speaking, to be my best. I don't want weaknesses. I don't want to be able to say, well, I did everything I could over here and it was 90% good, so the 10% I can, No. I want to be my best. And so if I don't give in to a honey bun, and if I don't give in to a Pop-Tart, even though it fits my macros, I know that I'm that much stronger because I stayed the course. And I stayed it in simplicity and blandness. I didn't start to dilute it with something over here, something over here, just because it fit. That's not my framework. And I'm asking you to do the same thing. Just because somebody offers you something that might look like it's more polished and might look like it's more exciting, if it doesn't fit with your path, give it up. Cut the fat. Because you're doing yourself a disservice. Keep cutting the fat. If you want to see the best you, if you want to be your best version, and here's the caveat here, if you don't, you're not going to be your best to everybody else around you. Now you're being selfish. But sometimes it takes a selfish act to be selfless. And I'm not asking you to be selfish. I'm asking you to draw out your best. I'm asking you to have a good management with everything around you on top of you being your best. You can do it. I know you can. But it's going to take discipline. And most important, it's going to take structure to manage everything the way you need with everybody around you while making you the most refined version of yourself, the best refined version of yourself that you can. But guys, that's the only way you're going to be able to deliver your best to people around you. You got to keep simple. You got to keep bland. But you got to keep cutting the fat from around your life if you want to stay the course and be your best in the future. And here's a little hint here. You're never done cutting the fat. Because once you cut enough fat, unbeknownst to you, more fat comes around you, comes on you. You got to keep cutting it. It's a never-ending process. The enemy is always in charge of the fat. He loves fat on you. But you weren't made to have a bunch of fat on your frame. You weren't made to have a bunch of fat around you. That is just a dysfunction. And not only with the body, but with the mind. So think of what I'm saying is, it's definitely a metaphor here. But the fat that's on you could be people, circumstances, could be the environment that you put yourself in that you do not need. Could be the idols that you serve that you do not need to be serving. Could be the influencers that you look up to that are not good influencers. Just because somebody is wealthy doesn't mean that they understand how to live your life. Just because they've acquired some wealth or a Lambo doesn't mean that they're integral. You need to be able to consistently cut the fat around you. And not only that, but physically on your body, because that is a lack of discipline. When you see an overweight person, it's a lack of discipline. You can bet that they probably have a disorganized life. We're not meant to be fat, guys. That's something that the TV and shit like that is draining you and brainwashing you into thinking like it's not a big deal. Have this, have that. This commercial over here saying buy this, buy. You don't need that. I'm not saying don't indulge once in a while, but I'm saying know when to stop, put bars and boundaries on things, and be disciplined, because that's the only way you're going to see your best. The people that are overweight, they're overweight. They have so much, they have too much weight that they're carrying. That's not only a metabolic drain on them, and it's setting them up for early death, but as a byproduct during the course of this, they're not their best. You can't be. You just can't. I know you don't feel good. I know you have a lack of self-confidence. I know you have a lack of self-esteem. I know that you're lazy, because if you weren't all those things, you wouldn't look the way you look. Period. It's showing up on your frame. Because your mental framework is distorted. I'm asking you to develop your mental framework and become more disciplined, become more structured, become more obedient to the avenues that God is placing inside of you, because that is the only way you're going to see your best come to fruition. It's tough. It's not easy. But this road to the pinnacle of your success, to the pinnacle of you leaving your legacy, isn't going to be an easy road to follow. But it's going to be the most gratifying.